Niagara Falls is one of the most famous waterfalls in the entire world. Why? It is certainly not the biggest or the highest. It is ranked in the top 5 for the biggest falls. But these are the fastest moving waterfalls on Earth, with the water reaching 68 kilometers per hour. Over 3,000 tons of water flow over the falls every second. That is over 75,000 gallons per second from the American and Bridal Veil Falls, and over 680,000 gallons from the Horseshoe Falls. The water falls at an amazing rate of 32 feet per second and about 280 tons of force. The scientists may recognize the significance of this volume of force. The force is harnessed to create energy for the region and used to supply power to both Canada and the US. Way back in November 1896, the Adams Power Plant began transmitting power to parts of Buffalo. Niagara Falls is capable of producing over 4 million kilowatts of electricity, which is shared by the United States and Canada. Even today, many visitors make a stop at the hydroelectric power plant and tour to watch the power of these falls and the Niagara River being turned into natural power. 4 of the 5 Great Lakes drain into the Niagara River. For most tourists, it is the magic of the falls that brings them here. Niagara Falls has been a tourist attraction for over 200 years. Today we are visiting Niagara Falls State Park, the oldest park in the US. This park was established in 1885 and gets over 8 million visitors each year. Niagara Falls is actually made of 3 waterfalls. From largest to smallest, there are the Horseshoe Falls, also known as the Canadian Falls, the American Falls, and Bridal Veil Falls. Niagara Falls' vertical height is over 176 feet in some sections. Father Louis Hennepin, a French priest, was the first person recorded seeing the falls in 1678, taking drawings and descriptions back to France. The story goes that the French were so taken by the falls that visitors made it a point to stop. In 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte's younger brother, Jerome, honeymooned with his American bride at the falls. According to the lure of Niagara Falls history, he is credited with making Niagara Falls a honeymoon capital. What do you want to see when you visit? The Maid of the Mist tour is the boat you see on the river. It takes visitors right to the base of the falls, and you can even feel the power of the falling river. In spite of the raincoats that you are issued, prepare to be soaked. The Cave of the Winds will provide a raincoat for visitors, but it is only a small protection against the bombardment of water. This tour takes you on a walk on a boardwalk at the base of the American Falls. On the dry side, a trolley tour will give you an overview of the sights and different places near the park. Incidentally, a trolley tour was the very first tourist attraction here, and it cost only $1 in 1885 to take a tour for an hour. The observation tower gives you a bird's eye view and keeps you well above the falls, but is usually packed with other visitors. On the Canadian side, you can take an elevator down several stories on the Journey Behind the Falls tour. You are underneath the roaring water. Watch out for flying fish going over the falls if you try this one. The power of the falls has captivated many people trying to demonstrate man's dominance over nature. The first daredevil to face the falls was in 1901. A school teacher named Annie Edison Taylor enclosed herself in a barrel with a mattress and went over the falls on her 63rd birthday. She survived, but exited the barrel bleeding, shook up, and not recommending anyone else try it. Apparently there are much better gifts to give yourself for a 63rd birthday present. The last person to survive going over the falls was promptly arrested. In 1859, Charles Blondin went over the falls on a tightrope. He crossed 300 times, but no one is sure why. 116 years later, in 2012, Nick Wallenda managed a successful tightrope walk over the falls that was televised. He had to get permission from both the American and Canadian governments to try, and promptly produced his passport when he arrived on Canadian soil. A Rochester, New York electrical company supplied the wire for this famous walk. This statue in Niagara Park is of Chief Red Jacket. He was a prominent Native American and negotiated for his people after the American Revolution, identifying territory in New York State for Native Americans. George Washington gave him a peace medal for his efforts. The Native American tribe eventually joined together to form the League of Five Nations, giving them a strong negotiating platform. Fish often go over the falls and have a 90% survival rate. They have been known to be propelled out of the water by force and hit people, giving a new meaning to flying fish. The falls will ice over in the winter, but don't completely freeze. This is one of the most beautiful times to see the falls. They are lit at night with a rotating light show. Under international treaty, the flow of water over Niagara Falls is reduced during the night to allow more of the water to flow into intakes used for power generation. This plan ensures that the fall's natural beauty remains unaffected during prime viewing hours.